I'm Ian Mean, editor of the Western Daily Press. Tonight I'm talking to Dr. Tony Cocker. Tony is Chief Executive of E.ON UK. This is the latest in a series of interviews that I do as part of the University of the West of England Distinguished Address Series, held here in the City Hall in Bristol. Tony, can I ask you about customers? Energy companies like yours have not had the greatest reputation. Some might think you a bit like bankers. Tell me about trust, because that's what you're going to talk about this evening. Trust and the customers.
I think for me, it really does come down to, are we focused on doing the right things for our customers every single day? And how do we make things easy for our customers? How do we provide our customers with simple products, fair prices, simple comparable products, fair prices, great service, and help them also understand their energy consumption and manage their energy consumption. And that, to me, is if we do all of that and we hold our own costs down, then we have a sustainable business. And for me, we put customers right at the heart of our business, as I've just described, and that's really about making sure that we're doing the right things for customers and we've therefore got a sustainable business.
But does the customer, Tony, have that perception?
Well, it's really, does the customer have that perception? If you read the national newspapers, you absolutely wouldn't believe that. But if you sit down with customers regularly, as I do, then it's a much more nuanced picture, right? So, for example, a few weeks ago I sat down with a group of customers who've got smart meters, and to a man and woman, they would recommend smart meters to their neighbours, and they are essentially very satisfied customers. On the other hand, you read the newspapers, and not every single day, but certainly every single week or every single month, there are negative stories about the industry and sometimes about E.ON. We've absolutely got to work on that. When I think what the root causes are there is really two things. One is prices. What's driving prices? Prices have gone up a lot. What's really the root cause of all that? And secondly, it's service. And in the past, we haven't really invested in service the way we need to, and we haven't made things as simple in terms of products as we need to, and we haven't explained our prices as we need to. And others haven't explained either.
Now, prices. Things are tight with most people. The pound in their pockets doesn't go very far. Utilities, not just power, utilities generally perceived to be soaring ahead of inflation. It's actually right. The rises that a lot of utilities are putting in far outreach inflation. Why is that?
Right. So,
because if you can't afford it, if someone can't afford energy, you impose a price on those people. What are they to do?
Yeah. So you're absolutely right. Over the last 5-10 years, the cost of energy delivered to our homes and our businesses has risen above inflation. And what's driven that? There's a number of factors. One is actually the cost of energy on international markets has increased. Two, the cost of moving that energy to our doorsteps, the wires and the pipes, has gone up. Three, we're investing in reducing our energy consumption, so in insulating houses and helping customers socially. That's added to bills. And four, we're also investing in zero carbon or low carbon energy, and that is subsidised, and that has added to our bills. So all of those have increased the unit cost, the cost per kilowatt hour of our energy. At the same time, we have made some progress in reducing our energy consumption. The average household now uses less energy than it did 10 years ago, but not enough. So overall bills that land on people's doorsteps absolutely have increased, really down to a set of the international global markets and a set of policy decisions as to how we need to rebuild our energy system in this country, reinvest in our energy system.
Now, energy investment. We've seen today the report from the National Grid, lots of commentary today about investment in this industry. Not been enough for a long time. Is that true? Have respective governments, forget what colour they are, have they not invested enough?
Well, I wouldn't put it like that. I would say, first of all, if you look at a company, as a company, we have invested over the last 5-7 years, on average, more or as much as we've earned each year. So invested in new
So what's your
power stations.
percentage investment then in a year?
We don't
Roughly.
I don't work it as a percentage, but
Right.
for example, in the last couple of years, say 500 or 600 million a year.
Right.
Yeah, so very significant investments. And just to put that into a more physical context, pretty recently we opened a wind farm called London Array, which was at the time the biggest offshore wind farm in the country. We're investing in our coal station at Ratcliffe on Soar near Nottingham, £750 million being invested there. We've invested in a combined cycle gas turbine power station on the Isle of Grain, very big, much smaller and more local. In Sheffield, we invested in a biomass facility. So that shows the range of investments that we as a company are making. If I then go to government policy, I think the current government policy is to put in place a framework which will encourage investment both in low carbon generation, whether that's offshore wind, onshore wind, nuclear, biomass, and also in maintaining existing plants on the system, relatively clean plants, and investing in new plants on the system. That's called the so-called capacity market. And the second part, the capacity market, will really start the first auction is this year, but it will start in 2018. The article to which you refer is really about this winter and what is government and what is National Grid doing this winter to ensure that the lights are staying on.
And I mean, what sort of commitment are you going to give to your customers? We've seen today National Grid, the government's energy minister saying the lights won't be going out, there won't be blackouts. Do you believe that's right?
I think that's absolutely, I support that view. I think.
But is it true?
There's a number of plants coming off the system because of they've had to close, and then there's a number of plants where we've had issues, and so they're not running either at their capacity or at full capacity. But on the other hand, National Grid have put in place measures to make sure that enough plants are available in their view, and they are the experts.
So you're quite hopeful we won't have lots of blackouts?
I'm very hopeful.
Yeah. Now, could you this is a complex business, Tony. Where do you stand in the energy league? Can you just explain to people where you are in terms of size?
Oh, okay. I wonder what you meant by league. So in terms of numbers of customers, we have about 4.5 million households across the UK are our customers.
And they're concentrated all over the country?
They are spread all over the country. So we also serve a lot of businesses, so whether that's small or medium-sized businesses or large corporations. Roughly? About 500,000 small businesses, and you don't really measure it like that for large businesses because some of them use a lot of energy, some use less. So that's providing electricity and gas to businesses and residential customers across the country. We also provide services related to that. So, for example, last year we bought a company which provides energy management services. So it's really, really interesting. They will, if you were a retailer with stores across the country, they would say, look, we can help you manage your energy consumption. Right. Tell us, the company, when you need your lights on, what temperature you want your buildings to be, and what temperature you want your fridges to be, and we'll monitor them and control them for you, and we'll reduce your energy consumption and maintain those standards. and therefore will reduce your bills.
Now, when you talk about customers, Tony, it's quite difficult to have choice, isn't it? Because if you look at websites, and let's face it, a lot of older people won't do that. What are people looking for? They're looking for the cheapest, I guess. So what's your idea of service? Is your idea to provide the cheapest source of power?
Well, actually, I think what people are looking for is fair prices and good service.
But how do they know what a fair price is?
Well, they're not necessarily looking for the cheapest.
No.
They, in terms of fair prices, there's the websites, or indeed just straightforward comparison, doing a comparison themselves on the web or a comparison in newspapers, will give them a view of what is the price. As I said earlier, our clear approach is we charge fair prices. We have simple products, fair prices, and we really invest in service. And we believe that is the way to retain our existing customers and attract new customers. To your point on competition, actually, I believe that this is a very competitive market. I know some people don't, you put that view, but I personally believe this is a very competitive market. And we called for a competition enquiry, actually 3 years ago. There now is a competition markets investigation into the industry, which we welcomed, because we really want experts to look into it, a detailed, dispassionate analysis to clear the air.
So, clearing the air, who do you blame for this? I mean, I'm not saying that you're all crooks. I'm not saying I don't know anything about energy, and I don't think very many people do. With banks, we have a perception of a bank, of how we're dealt with. Now, with an energy company, I think we're quite in the dark, literally. So, the big question, I think, is how are you going to communicate with the customers better so they get a better feel of trust in it, Tony? How are you going to do that?
So, I think maybe your comparison with a bank, and the point I've just, when you go down to your local branch and you stand in front of the people in your local branch, basically you know that those are 99.9% of the time straightforward, honest people seeking to do a good job. And when you call us up in our call centres, that's exactly the same thing. You're talking to straightforward, honest people who are seeking to do a great job. And when you meet one of our meter fitters or meter readers in the street, say, or comes to your home, again, really good people trying to do a good job and help our customers. And so, for me, it starts with the frontline staff, making sure that we are supporting our frontline staff and giving them the tools to do a good job, so that when you call up, you have a good conversation. When the meter reader or the meter fitter comes around, you have a good experience. And that is at the heart of it. That's the front.
But a lot of, you don't seem to have problems in that area, energy companies. The problems seem to be call centres, different prices. I don't think anyone's complaining about the frontline people. Isn't it the whole point about online call centres, how people are dealt with there? If someone comes to your house, you hear very little complaint about someone who sorts out a fault or whatever.
So if you look at call centres, again, I included the call centre as in my previous comments. We have great people in call centres trying to help customers every single day. And whether that's something as basic as taking a meter read or solving a billing question, or maybe providing some advice, helping them maybe with a benefits check, if they could be on benefits and they're not getting all the benefits that to which they're entitled. Sometimes going way beyond the call of duty. So, for example, we certainly had times when a call centre agent has identified what's potentially an issue and effectively and it's helped a customer really over a major problem, which might be nothing to do with energy. So we have good people trying to do a good job, and what my job is the CEO, and what the team's job is to make sure that those good people have the tools. They have the tools and the training, and then the processes and systems behind them, as far as possible, eliminate mistakes. So what are the things that people complain about when they phone us up? Let's listen to those, understand those, work out what the root cause of the problem is, and solve it, so that we learn from complaints. We don't just solve the initial complaint. We do solve the initial complaint, but we then learn from them.
Yeah. One last question. If you had a message today for David Cameron in terms of energy, what would you ask him to do? Arguably, energy is the most controversial area of our living, basically. Perhaps the banks have had their bit, they're being sorted out. What about energy? What would you ask him to do?
I think on energy, it's keep focused on the energy policy that you've set out and the energy market reform. Ensure that is delivered, and that includes
You're talking here about nuclear, wind.
Yeah, so that includes the points I was making before about how do we make sure we get new power stations, how do we make sure that we get new gas stations, etc. So keep focused on that and ensure that that's delivered. But also, I think my message would be, at least as my company, we are absolutely committed to improving our service to customers, to ensuring that things are simple, clear and fair for customers, and we're investing in servicing our customers. Support us in doing that.